This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, Ms. Holtz. Move things around a little bit. Ms. Please come up to the podium and have at it.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to address you. I'll try not to take more than 3 minutes. Have several issues. First, I don't expect you to answer me tonight, but I would appreciate knowing when we can have our usual type of meeting again. As you know, I very seldom missed any meeting, whatever it was. Planning board, town board, board of adjustment, I was always here. I admit I'm very inept on computers. I'm gonna go home and try to listen to the rest of the meeting, but I really want to be here. Now, the Stella Farm Homeowners Association is scheduled to have our annual meeting at the community building. We're limited to 25 people, but at least you could have the board and a dozen people under the guidelines here in the town hall, should you choose. Okay. 2, yard waste pickup. I've asked every year for the past 10 years for more frequent yard waste pickups, and I'm asking again, particularly now that we have our own truck. I think it would be a wonderful thing to have more yard waste pickups. I'd also like to ask the board to consider putting vacant lots back on the list of pickup sites. I think it's a terrible injustice for vacant lots to pay taxes on the full value of the lot. Fire, rescue, police, yard waste pickup, garbage pickup, and we get none of those services. We need none of those services, but we're paying for them. So I ask you to please put vacant lots back on that. I really think that would be a fair thing. I also think it would be fair to charge garbage fees. Again, the vacant property is paying for other people's services. Now, other towns, you pay for water, you pay for sewer. Obviously, we don't have either municipal service, but we do have a nonprofit member-owned water corporation. And I think that's fine. But people who don't get water don't pay water bills. Okay. Another thing is, I don't believe it's beyond the ability of the staff to keep up with garbage. Who pays a fee, who has a house, who has a vacant lot. I really believe our staff is fully capable of keeping up with that. And I would ask that you consider a fee for garbage. Those that don't need it, don't have it, don't use it. Another thing is, I'm concerned about the town's inattention to the fact that people are not maintaining swale ditches for drainage, that they are filling them up with dirt, with debris, and the roads cannot drain. I took a lot of time and effort and care to create swale ditches. In the first subdivision I did after my father died, which was Deer Creek, those swale ditches work beautifully unless people block them with driveways and with materials. So I would ask, please, that you not allow swale ditches to be filled up Star Hill, Cape Carteret, Bayshore, anywhere. Now, if the town wants to have an easement through some of my property to drain Bayshore into a canal, I'll be happy to consider it. I think it would be a good solution for some of the stormwater problems in Bayshore, and I would be happy to consider it. That's off Bogue Sound Drive that blew out, and now it's been repaired. At any rate, how am I coming on my minutes?
You're right.
Okay. The other thing is, I would appreciate it if you would let us resume meetings. And I'll be here, I'll wear a mask, I'll stay back from everybody, but it's very, very difficult for me to get on a Zoom meeting and do all these things that younger people can do.
You're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you very
We're
much.
hoping in April. You don't hold me to that, but I'm hoping April.
Good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, that is the only public comment. Give me a moment, gentlemen, while I move this microphone back. All right, can you see me? All right, can I still hear okay? All right, good deal. All right, next up on the agenda, we moved the item of discussing the sales tax distribution. Zach's going to give a presentation here momentarily, but I did have a sort of a statement that I wanted to read to you guys. As you know, gentlemen, my goal was to get this presentation to you tonight and have you officially approve a proclamation asking the county to change the sales tax distribution to one that is based on per capita rather than the current ad valorem system that is obviously not fair to a lot of us here in the county. I would then represent our board in this town at the upcoming regular county board meeting, which is coming up next week. I found out it would be discussed at the county retreat last week, so I made it a point to be there for that discussion. After all the information was presented, the board allowed the mayors to speak, which I appreciated. I was not prepared to speak, but I did take the opportunity to express my opinion about the change and that I did not want this to be an us against them issue. And if the county was unable to make any changes for this fiscal year, then to at least consider getting together with all the mayors of the county to try and work out at least a hybrid type of system that will not penalize some towns and overly reward others. The board decided to vote on it, and it was left as is with no further discussion indicated at that time. Since this was defeated as a 4-3 vote, Commissioner Comer has reached out the last few days and is getting this back on the county board's agenda for their meeting next week. He is also in favor of a committee to look into creating a hybrid type of system, such as that used by Cumberland County, so it's nothing new. Other people have done this before. And I do applaud that effort, as I am more interested in moving forward than dwelling on the actions of the past that got us to this point. I do, however, fear the board has already adjusted its vote and will likely defeat the effort more soundly and understandably regarding any change for this coming fiscal year. But I hope they at least evolve to a level of understanding that the towns of Newport, Cedar Point, Bogue, Pelletier, and Cape Carteret are unified in the effort to try to make this distribution process more equal for all of us. It's a lot of data to digest. I hope the county board is not short-sighted in handling this issue and takes a lead in seeking to use the data and unite the entire county in seeking a more equitable system that is fair to all the towns and citizens of Carteret County. With that, I turn it over to Zach.
All right, thank you, Mayor Baker. Let's get to the end of the presentation here. All right, so as Mayor Baker mentioned, there are two methods that can be used by a county to distribute sales tax revenue among its municipalities. There's the ad valorem method, which is based on the ad valorem levy generated by each municipality. Towns that generate more property tax revenue receive a larger portion of the distribution. And then there's also the per capita method, which is based on the population size of each municipality. The greater the population, the more the town receives in sales tax distribution. There's also the third method, which the mayor mentioned, which is the hybrid approach, which I believe Onslow County is one of the main local counties that's used that approach in the past. That requires special legislative approval by the North Carolina General Assembly. Carteret County currently uses the ad valorem method of sales tax distribution. And the Carteret County Commissioners have the option to change the distribution method each year. A decision must be reached by April of each year that would take effect for the upcoming fiscal year. So to sort of simplify things and to kind of highlight the importance of this issue, I took the data that the county provided and created some graphs to kind of show how sales tax is currently distributed throughout Carteret County and how it could be distributed with the per capita method. So you'll see the blue is the ad valorem method and the orange is the per capita method. So you can see Morehead City stays about the same. Emerald Isle would have a little bit of a decrease. Beaufort, a little bit of a decrease. Atlantic Beach, somewhat of a decrease as well. Pineville Shores, and you would see Newport would see an increase. Indian Beach would see a substantial decrease. Cape Carteret would see an increase. Cedar Point would see an increase. Pelletier would see an increase, and Bogue would see an increase. So if you take a little bit deeper of a dive into that, what that would mean for Cape Carteret. So the difference between the ad valorem method of distribution and the per capita method would be a difference of $339,049. That's equivalent to 8 cents of property taxes for the town of Cape Carteret. Now, if you do the math based on the number of residents in each of the municipalities, that breaks out to currently under the ad valorem method, we're getting $195.81 per resident versus $347.78 under the per capita method. And here's a breakdown that shows among the municipalities how it's split out under the current ad valorem method versus what it would be under the per capita method. So you can see here, down here at the bottom, Indian Beach with a population of 129 year-round residents is getting over $4,000 per resident under the current ad valorem method. So you can see where this invites some inequity under the current system based off of how that distribution takes place. I can't underscore enough how much of a significant issue this is for the town and for the town's future. If you look back to several years in the past where we had shortfalls with the budget, I think probably for 5 years or so before I came to the town, each year that was $200,000 to $300,000 worth of the shortfall that the town was experiencing. So if you start to look back at our shortfalls and what we haven't been able to generate, and then look at how much money is on the table that we're not receiving because we're not receiving a fair piece of the pie, it really underscores how significant of an issue this is. This is not a us versus them kind of thing, but what we're asking for is a fair and equitable distribution of the sales tax revenue across Carteret County. The per capita method reflects the permanent year-round population that contributes to the economy of the county year-round. It's the people who work at Cherry Point and Camp Lejeune that keep this economy going year-round and that sustain our economy. And it also returns those sales tax dollars back to the point of sale where they occurred, much better so than the ad valorem method does. It also alleviates a lot of the issues in the budgeting process. Under the current ad valorem method, if another municipality decides to increase their tax rate one year, we will suffer as a result of them increasing their tax rate. So what you get as a result is a race to see who can get the highest tax rate to be able to get the biggest piece of the pie. And that's really not a good service to the citizens of any of the municipalities. It's a race to see who can have the highest tax rate to be able to get the most sales tax revenue. In addition to that, Cape Carteret doesn't have the access to the same resources that many of the Bogue Banks communities have. You know, we don't have access to the paid parking and other financial resources that other municipalities have. So we rely very heavily on our sales tax revenue as well as our property taxes to generate enough money to balance our budget each year. But we provide the lion's share of the services to visitors that come in from out of town. People shop at our Lowe's stores, they visit our restaurants, and they travel on our roads and they utilize our services. So what we're asking is for a more equitable distribution method that recognizes the contributions of the year-round population throughout Carteret County. And that's why this is so important. And this is why we wanted to bring this before the board and have this formal discussion in terms of what the importance is for our town. This is a defining issue in terms of our ability to afford the things that we know that we need to get done in terms of infrastructure, our roads, our stormwater. This issue is critically important to us, and I hope that the Carteret County Commissioners will take that into consideration, just how important of an issue this is to our town. So that's my presentation on the sales tax distribution, and we also have a letter in the packet that Mayor Baker has signed off on. So I'll hand it back over to Mayor Baker to continue the discussion in that regard.
Yeah, so I still want to go through with the process, let the county know that we are, very invested in this, and we want to keep this conversation going. Naturally, it may be, like I say, too late for this fiscal year. It'd be nice if we could, because we are talking about money. You can always use some money. We don't hate money here in Cape Carteret. But realistically, I just want to make sure that, we have this conversation. And so with that, I'll give you gentlemen a chance to speak, but I would ask that we go ahead and if I could get a motion to approve the letter that you guys got for the county, and we'll go from there.
I made that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Waters has made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And we'll open it up for discussion. Anybody add something they'd like to add or say before we do a vote?
Mayor, Mike King.
Yes. Go ahead, Mike.
Just a couple of brief comments. One, the disappointment to me was this was handled in a retreat meeting by the county that generally doesn't allow citizens to speak. It was well under the radar, and it went through this process rather than having their public meeting, which I believe is on maybe the 16th of March. Second of all, I would like our manager, town manager, to give that presentation to the board of commissioners at the first opportunity. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Anybody else have any comments? All right. If not, then we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start backwards this time. Commissioner Waters,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
and Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be sending that letter on. All right. Next up on the agenda is the staff update. I'm sorry, the presentation of the 2019-2020 financial audit. Wade Green.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir. You go right ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, I presume you've had a copy of the audit. And you got a copy of my little presentation here, about 7 or 8 pages. If you have it, I'll just go through my little presentation here. I hope you've all read the audit. I hope you haven't found anything wrong. LG's had it and they've accepted it. So right now Raleigh's happy. That being said, my presentation here, if you'll just flip over to page 2, your assets and your deferred outflows of resources exceeded your liabilities, and your deferred inflows of resources by $3.5 million. And your net position increased by $649,438. That's the front 2 statements in your financials. They're full accrual with debt service and depreciation, etc. But that's really not how you keep your books. You more keep the rest cash basis, and that's the rest of the statements in the financials. That being said, if you flip over to the next one, your general fund. Right here, okay. Your revenues at 2.361 million, your expenditures at $1,660,000. For revenues over expenditures for over $700,656. You can see you were $177,000 last year. This year you're at $700,000. Steadily been going up over the past couple of years. The next chart is your fund balance available. That's the cash in bank after you pay your bills. He's got it sideways. But anyway, you can see it at year end.
There we go.
right here. And there you go. At year end, you had 1,915,000 versus 1,194,000 last year. So you up 700,000 in cash in the bank at year end. As you can see, 2 years ago, you barely over $1 million. So you up 900,000 over the past 2 years. If you will take this 1,000,009 divided by the expenditures on the previous graph, you get the next one, the percentage. This is the one LGC likes to look at. There you go. As you can see at year end, you had 115.34%. So you got a year and 2 months basically of cash in the bank at year end. I'm sure LGC wants you to be somewhere in that probably around 80%, being you're so close to the beach, but you had 115.34. So that's excellent. Versus 45, you had 6 months last year, basically. Now you had a year and 2 months. So that's an excellent percentage. Any questions on your general fund? That 115 kind of says it all for your general fund. If not, the next graph is just some general things about your town. As you can see, cash in the bank, your governmental funds, 2,078,000 versus 1,005,000 last year. Like I say, you at what, 600,000 there in your total governmental funds. It was over 1,089,000 2 years ago, so it's steadily going up. The next graph, your long-term debt. At year end, 431,473 versus 427,856 last year. The bulk of that is your portion of law enforcement separation allowance and your elders retirement. Basically some actuarially counted things. Instead of debt, I think your debt's what, 30-some thousand for the year as far as installment notes. But the bulk of that, like I say, is your elders retirement system and vacation. The next graph, your tax levy. Current year levy, 910,671. 903 last year. So your taxes for the current years went up basically what, $7,000, a little more. Versus 819 2 years ago. The next graph, your collection rate for the current year taxes. You're at 99.04 for total, and 98.96 for real and personal, and 100% for motor vehicle. That 99.04 is a great rate. I'm from Columbus County, so we're at 93, 94%. But about everybody on the beaches are normally at 99, 99.5%. That's the extra rate as far as the state's concerned. So there's nothing bad to say there. That's kind of it as far as my charts. But let me say, Cape Carteret's in excellent shape with his general fund. There's nothing bad to say. Everything was look good, and should continue to look good. Any questions?
So far, so good.
Yeah. So you're great. It was a great town. So nothing bad to say.
We knew that.
Okay. Any questions? Feel free to call me if you have any, or I'm sure Sandra can answer them if I can't.
Any gentlemen have any questions? No? Okay. Anything you need to add to that, sir?
No, that's kind of it. I mean, you're in great shape. There's nothing much to say when you're in good shape.
Yes, sir. That's awesome news. And we appreciate you giving that presentation to us this evening, sir. We thank you for being
Okay.
here.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Zach, unless you got some extra comments about that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the staff updates.
That should be all on that. We thank Wade for his work on putting this together, as well as Sandy, and putting all this information together. So everybody keep up the good work and keep us moving in the right direction. I'll jump right into the staff update. Let me get the PowerPoint up. So since we met last month, we paved a number of roads throughout Cape Carteret. So here's Park Avenue over in Bayshore, nice fresh coat of asphalt there. This is over on Star Hill Drive and Anita Fort Drive. We also did Dolphin Street and Manatee Street, some portions of those, and Sutton Drive and another portion of Star Hill Drive as well. So I'm excited to see those get done and be able to get some of those streets that really needed to be addressed tackled with this last project. Here's a view at the Pettiford Creek Launch Facility up on Highway 58. So the contractor completed work this past week, did a really good job on the project. You can see here the ramp leading down to one of the launches there. And also here's another view looking down the launch, the floating platform. And then also here at the end, the launch right there at the deeper portion by Pettiford Creek. So have two different spots people can put in. It's looking really good. And we should be getting started on the next phase of the project pretty soon. We're working on securing the stormwater permit for the project. And we'll be installing the parking lot and the right turn lane into the property. So really beautiful view out there. Really excited to see this open up. I mean, it's a great spot. Just amazed with the beauty out there and that view out into the Crow Wing National Forest. So really excited to open this up. Hopefully, my goal is by June, barring any delays, and hopefully we can have a nice ribbon cutting out there and have it open by the summertime. And we also did our Connect with Cape Carteret video for March. Encourage everybody to check that out if you haven't had a chance to. A lot of good information in there. Definitely head over to the YouTube page, the town's website, or Facebook page, or Instagram. It's on all of those different platforms. So definitely check that out. If you've not signed up for Constant Contact to receive emails from the town, definitely do so. It's a good way to get our monthly videos where you get updated on everything that's going on in Cape Carteret. And that should be everything that I've got for today. From my end of the presentation, and I'm guessing Chief is there in the boardroom, so I'll hand it over to Chief for an update for the Cape Carteret Police Department.
I think we can see if you, hang on, I'll get you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Lots of rain in the month of February. But the officers, they battled through that, and they did over 230 traffic stops. They had included in the arrests were 7 DUI arrests, which is pretty impressive for our guys. And they're out there working the streets day and night. Also, the officers performed over 1,000 business checks, which over 30 a day they were doing between day and night. And they found 16 unsecured doors with businesses at nighttime. So they're out there walking around, getting out of their vehicles. And also they conducted 383 logged saturated patrols. And that included some stationary radar back in the residential areas. And the good news is that there were no excessive speeds recorded by our officers. Finally, got an email this weekend that our new vehicle has arrived. The train finally got here from California to Winston-Salem, and the vehicle is now in Morehead City, and it will be going over to ECI this week for upfitting. So hopefully we'll have that new vehicle in service soon. We're in bad need of that vehicle. Finally, we still have plenty of calendars. Just get in touch with me if you'd like one, or one of the officers, and I've requested that all of them carry calendars around their vehicles. So if you see them out and about, stop them and ask for a calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
One thing I'll add is that I had a lot of great comments about the squirrel video, reminding everybody to get their recycling up. I thought that was pretty cool. Kids seemed to enjoy that with the St. Patrick's Day themed music and background. I thought that was great. You know, that's one thing people like to do, is know that we got some communication going on. Anything else with staff update, Zach?
Nope, that's everything we got for now. And yeah, Recycle Squirrel does have quite a following, so expect more Recycle Squirrel videos in the future. And also I'll mention that we do have the town sign. I think I skipped the first slide. We got it lit up for St. Patrick's Day as well, both of the town signs. So that's also been exciting for folks. So we try to light it up something different each month or each upcoming holiday. So
That's awesome. All right, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, was the designation of the no parking area on Star Hill Drive. Zach?
alrighty, so here's an image from over on Star Hill Drive from Taylor Ocean Road to Clubhouse Drive. We have a lot of issues with vehicles pulling off to fish in those ponds there. So you can see it continually causes issues to the side of the road. Public Works has had to repeatedly go out there and fill in ruts, and it just causes continued damage. There is one no parking sign that's an old no parking sign that's located along that stretch of road. There's no reference in the code of ordinances to that being an official no parking area. So what we're requesting is for the board to consider officially designating that section from Taylor Ocean Road to Clubhouse Drive as a no parking area. That way we can get the no parking signs posted and the police department can start enforcing people that are parking there. That should hopefully help with the issues that we're seeing along the right of way there. I know it's been a burden to a lot of the residents in that area. I think somebody's put a garden sculpture out there to try to deter people from parking. So hopefully this will give some relief and keep people from pulling off on the side of the road and creating those ruts. So the requested action is for the Board of Commissioners to consider approving text amendment 2021.03.01 to Chapter 74 parking schedules of the Cape Carteret Code of Ordinances.
All right, thank you, Zach. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Okay. All right. So we have the motion from Commissioner Waters and a second from Commissioner Miller. Any discussion?
If there needs to be a parking sign put there, let's put one in there. I don't know what the discussion should be about. I mean, it's clearly a problem. I think just moving forward, I think anywhere in the town that needs a no parking sign, they should just go ahead and put one up there. I mean, it's just going to the town ordinance. I mean, we got ordinances on that, but clearly I think it can be also re-advised as well.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, Mike King.
Go ahead.
I'm supportive of this because that's been rutted up for years. But I wondered if it had to go all the way to Clubhouse Drive. Got any comments on that, Zach?
I would recommend taking it to that cross street just because if we post it just around the immediate ponds, I think people are just going to shift up the road and then they'll be right there in those people's front yards. So I'd recommend keeping it from the Clubhouse Drive to Taylor Ocean, just so that we don't shift the problem down. I think if it's close enough people can see it, they're just going to park on the outside of that no parking area. And it'll probably just push the problem further and further up the road.
Yeah, what I was driving at is that, I didn't want to discourage people from fishing in that backwater there, and there are fish in there, both sides. And just to know that it was necessary. I've looked at it, but the place right down there, the low spot, is always rutted. So I'll defer to your judgment on that and taking it all the way to Clubhouse Drive. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Any other comments, gentlemen?
I was going to say, I drove down there and looked at it once I saw it on the agenda, and as the picture depicts, I mean, it definitely is a problem down there. There is as you say, there's the one no parking sign. I don't know when it was put up, but it was obviously seen in the past that there was a problem there. Why the ordinance wasn't changed to enforce that then, I'm not sure, but I think we definitely need to correct that now and make sure that there is an ordinance to affect it, and then maybe put up some more signs so the police can start enforcing it. So I'm all for it.
All right. Thank you, Don. Any other comments? If not, then we'll just do a roll call vote. I'll start with Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
and Commissioner Waters.
Yes.
Yes from Commissioner Waters. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Next up is consideration of 108 Manatee commercial site plan. Zach?
Alrighty, so to give everybody a rundown, the planning board considered the commercial site plan for 108 Manatee Street last Tuesday. One correction to the memo, I was a little bit unsure on the site plan and got clarification from John McLean on the number of parking spaces. There's a line that goes across the parking lot on the site plan that actually delineates 2 spaces. So the number of parking spaces required is actually 7, and there's 7 provided on the plan. The proposed use is an engineering and real estate office, which is a permitted use in the B20 commercial zoning district. The parking category is C, which is 1 parking space for each 200 square feet of gross floor area. The minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet. Minimum lot width, I believe it should be 70 feet. Front setback 40 feet, rear setback 25 feet, and the side setback is 0, with a 10-foot buffer required on both sides of the property. Based off of the discussion at the planning board meeting, I'll run through the items that were brought up. They voted 5-0 on the March 2nd, 2021 meeting to support a favorable recommendation of the proposed CSP for 108 Manatee Street, so long as the following issues were addressed with the site plan. The parking area would need to be removed from the right-of-way and located on the site. The parking area would need to be reconfigured so that the vehicles do not back into the street or right-of-way. The parking area must comply with the parking lot design and screening requirements. The applicant is to provide an engineer's letter specifying the amount of impervious area that is proposed and the amount of stormwater storage capacity planned for the site. The applicant is to change the reference of a proposed yellow office to indicate that the yellow office is part of the proposed CSP. The applicant is to change the rear setback to read 25 feet. The applicant will remove reference to the proposed storage barn. The applicant is to remove security light in the middle of the lot / confirm proposed location of any lighting that is located and that it does not create light trespass onto adjacent lots. And the applicant is to address the requirement for a fire hydrant. And I have a note in here. I did reach out to Station 12 or the West Carteret Fire Department for some clarification from Chief Hunter. And it does appear, based off that email, if I'm reading that interpretation correctly, since this is a rural water system, it was never intended for firefighting purposes. What he addressed is the requirement, to comply with the North Carolina Fire Code. So a suggestion for a change to the ordinance would just be to read that an applicant must comply with the North Carolina Fire Code, and then the fire marshal can determine what those requirements are. As it stands right now, there's not a fire hydrant that's located within 300 feet of the proposed site. So that is a provision of the CSP that was not remedied due to the fact that the water main that runs down Manatee Street is only a 4-inch main, and the closest fire hydrants are on Dolphin Street and on the corner of Manatee and Loma Linda. So that is one consideration. There's the possibility the board could approve the site plan contingent upon that section of the Code of Ordinances being modified or changed, or contingent upon the applicant receiving a variance from the Board of Adjustment. And I'll go ahead and pull the most up-to-date site plan up as well. Let's see. So 2 other notes on this. Here's the parking spaces. So you've got the parking spaces numbered there. That's 7 spaces. And one of the requirements in the ordinance is for a front grass strip or planted strip, which is required in 156 OT6. That's not shown on the plans, but it also wasn't discussed at the planning board. And then the 10-foot buffer on the side in between 106 and 108 Manatee Street was not shown on the plan as well. But otherwise, the other items were revised on the plan. There's no storage barn that's indicated. The lighting was removed, and the parking was shifted out of the right-of-way along Manatee Street. So what I would ask for is for the Board of Commissioners to either approve or deny the proposed commercial site plan for 108 Manatee Street. And as I mentioned, there's a couple different options for how to approach that. It could be approved contingent upon a text amendment being granted to address the fire hydrant requirements. It could be granted contingent upon the receipt of a variance from the Board of Adjustment, or it could be denied until these issues are resolved. So there's a couple different routes that could be taken by the board as it pertains to this commercial site plan. That's all I have. So I'll just ask for the board to consider the proposed CSP for 108 Manatee Street.
All right, thank you, Zach. Regarding the hydrant issue, I have to agree with that's something we need to address, because there again, we don't own the water system. It is considered a rural water system, and it's just not feasible to require him to have a hydrant, especially when there's not a sufficient water main size near him to hook up a fire hydrant to. So with that, I guess I'll entertain a motion as to how you guys would like to address this.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to follow the town manager's recommendation and make a motion to approve this site plan. And if we have to make it contingent on modifying the ordinance to accommodate based on the fire hydrant issue, then so be it. Does that make sense to you, Mayor?
To approve based on contingency of modifying, trying to think how I want to word this properly. Modifying the ordinance.
Yes, I think we had two methods here that we could do this, and that was one of them. The other one was going before the Board of Adjustment for a variance, which I feel if we can handle it here tonight, we need to do so. So Mr. McLean can move forward with his project. So whatever we can do tonight, I highly recommend to do so, so as not to hold him up because of something through no fault of his own.
So I would say, if this, how does the wording sound, to approve contingency based on a text amendment to the ordinance regarding fire hydrants?
Yeah, I would say contingent on approval of a text amendment. So we can bring that to the planning board and the Board of Commissioners next month.
Okay.
What he said.
All right.
I'll second.
Mayor, can I add something here before, I've made the motion. I want to be clear.
Yes.
I want to be clear with the town manager and perhaps the attorney. The only 2 options that Mr. McLean has to getting this site plan approved, and from what I'm hearing, is 1, a variance from the Board of Adjustment, 2, to approve the site plan tonight, contingent on modification of the ordinance pertaining to the fire hydrant. Is that true, Zach or Brett? Do we have any more options here? Do we have any more options, I guess is what I'm asking.
The third option would be, and I don't think it's feasible, like the mayor said, we don't own the water system. So I don't know that it would be feasible to run a main just for a fire hydrant that distance. I think that would be cost prohibitive to require the applicant to do that, probably beyond the extent of what they would be willing to do. But I don't want to speak for the applicant, but that would be an option possibly, but I can't speak for the water system in terms of what they would allow. And also knowing that it's not a firefighting system, I don't know if they would go along with running a new water main specifically for the purpose of installing a fire hydrant. So that could be an option, but I don't know that I would say that it is a feasible option. So I think that's pretty much the three options there in terms of how the applicant could proceed.
Okay, I'm just interested in moving forward with this. It appears that Mr. McLean has met all recommendations by the planning board, except this hydrant, and it's obvious that that's the only option at this point we have to, or fastest way we can move it forward. So that would be my motion, Mayor Baker.
Okay, I think we're clear on that. Is to approve with the contingency that we will modify a text amendment on the issue of fire hydrants. And you have a second from Commissioner Waters. Any discussion?
Yes, I have some comments, Mayor. I feel do I get the floor, Mayor?
Yes, go right ahead, Mike.
Okay. First of all, on the issue of this fire hydrant, all of the fire hydrants that you see in this town were put in place by this very ordinance that we have to improve the fire protection of the town, and that was the direction that we had from the previous board. It was Western Carteret Fire Department before it was the ILA, and so that requirement, and I as planning board chair put in about 6 or 8 of those under that ordinance. Second, I don't know that making a motion that is contingent upon changing the ordinance. I think the appropriate avenue for this is to, on the fire hydrant, is to take it to the Board of Adjustment. That's what the Board of Adjustment is for, to award variances to particular requirements in the ordinance that are unusually difficult or hard. So I don't know that, I don't know that we should abandon this ordinance, because that's how we get the fire protection in here. And one comment on the fire company themselves, Lisa has always said it was a potable water system, not a fire protection system. But in every case, when the developer or the town, and the town put 3 or 4 of these hydrants at taxpayer expense just to get the coverage that was required by the ordinance. Okay, that's it on the hydrant. I think it needs to go to the Board of Adjustment. The buffer on the south side, if you read the notes in the vegetative buffer, that's not completely in compliance with the ordinance. It's close, and I did not see this drawing until just about 2 minutes before I hooked up when I got home. So I didn't really have a chance to review it, but a couple things that are noticeable to me on it is the calculations for the stormwater have been removed, and the stormwater was inadequate under the original plan when I reviewed the calculations that were on the original site plan. So, but I don't know what we have now. Second, I saw a note that the yellow building has been removed, but it's part of this project, and it should be on the site plan if it's part of the project. If it's not on the site plan now, when it is put there, we have to go through this whole process again. And I would strongly recommend that if we're going to include the yellow building on this project in this site plan, it ought to be put in there in the stormwater calculations as such. The other thing I noted on the stormwater was the parking lot. It didn't say on the original, but I assumed that it was a drop inlet box and perforated pipe holding capacity underneath the parking lot. And but I don't see it on this new one, so I don't know what we have on the new one. Let me see. also, the original one, there's requirements in the ordinance of having these drawings and packages in ahead of time. And I got mine, didn't have a copy. I had to make a copy from another planning board member just on Friday before the planning board meeting, and there's a requirement for that to be in substantially before that, and also a requirement before the board of ordinances. I got this just minutes before the meeting was brought to order. So I have some issues that I think are legitimate things that are absent on the site plan. And if we go ahead and approve this thing, what are these things? I haven't had a chance to review them. That's all my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Any other comments, gentlemen?
Yes, I've got further comments. I challenge anybody that's attending this meeting tonight to verify that every structure in our town, whether it be residential or commercial, is within 300 feet of a fire hydrant. Chief Hunter made mention that we are a rural water supply tanker shuttle rated fire department, which means they carry water to the fire. He has no problem hooking up 1,200 feet of hose to fight a fire. I have personally seen that with my own eyes in my neighborhood. I looked down my street. I got one fire hydrant on the entire street. Right before the meeting, I just stepped outside and looked. I was shocked. I mean, we're going to make rules that we need to make them for everybody, but my motion still, I still want to go through with the motion, Mayor. I just want to make those comments.
It's still on. We haven't changed the motion yet. We're just asking for comments now. And I also noticed that Mr. McLean is here. And if none of the commissioners have any more comments, I'd like to give him an opportunity to speak if he would choose to do so. So if I don't have any other comments, Commissioner, Mr. McLean, I would like to give you an opportunity to speak.
Yes, sir. I would. Thank you. And I appreciate you all looking at my little project. It's such a small little thing. It's what I'd like to do, and it came up rather suddenly, and I did make the sketch application in a timely manner, as opposed to what Mr. King said, and I gave Mr. Stiefy a copy of all the calculations sealed with my engineering seal. There's no question that he has that. Wouldn't you affirm that, Zach?
Yeah, we did receive the information from the applicant, and as soon as we received everything, we passed it along as soon as it was received. So there have been some updates that were made, and they were passed along as soon as we were in receipt of those documents.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, thank you, John. Any other comments, gentlemen? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner King.
No.
Commissioner Nalitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
And Commissioner Waters.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the budget amendment 2020.2021.10 for Bogue Inlet dredging. Zach?
All right, thank you, Mayor Baker. The town of Cape Carteret's received a request from Carteret County for a contribution towards the cost of the Bogue Inlet maintenance dredging. This project started back in 2013 and has been dredged several times since then. The amount is split up among the several municipalities, including Carteret County, Emerald Isle, Cedar Point, Cape Carteret, Onslow County, and Swansboro. So our portion of that would be $2,500. You can see in the packet, it's got some of the information of where the shoaling and some some of the issues where the depth is becoming an issue with navigation there. So what is requested is a budget amendment in the amount of $2,500 to cover the town's contribution towards the BOC Inlet dredging project. The following changes to the FY 2020-2021 budget would be required. Transfer from the undesignated fund balance in the amount of $2,500 and increase on the expenditure side, increase line item 65.923 waterway dredging in the amount of $2,500. The Board of Commissioners are asked to consider approving budget amendment number 10 to the FY 2020-2021 budget.
All right, thank you, Zach. Do I have any motions on this?
I make the motion to approve this money for the dredging project.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Waters. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Any
Yeah,
comments?
just one.
I have just one statement to make, Mayor Baker. This is something we've always, as long as I've been on the board, participated in. I think it's our responsibility to assist in the efforts to keep that inlet open. It's a recreational gold mine for us here, and let's face it. I mean, a good portion of our residents own boats, and myself included, and it's just nice to have a safe inlet to access the nearshore waters or offshore, whatever your preference is. So I just think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Any other comments?
Yes, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with what Commissioner Martin had said. In fact, we have been making donations to this almost annually for 20 years, and it's somewhere between $3,500 and $2,500 we've been putting that. So I'm totally supportive of this effort.
Okay. Any other comments, gentlemen? I would also have to agree with that, especially when you look at the breakdown of our share of this. It's really minute, and we get a lot of benefit out of that. I know I'm out there every chance I get using that inlet. So with that, we'll just go ahead and do a vote. We'll start with Commissioner Waters.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz.
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
And Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, next up is a discussion of the UDO and the land use plan project as far as selecting a steering committee. Commissioner Martin reached out to me earlier week and wanted to start this conversation off, so I will give him that opportunity. Commissioner Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I am by no means an expert on what we're getting ready to do here. Don't really know if anybody else on the board is, but I did do some research and talking to Zach, there's several ways that we can do this. Hand it over to the planning board, for instance, or we can keep it on the board of commissioners. I'm totally against any of those. The planning board has plenty to do without this. I'm in favor of a steering committee and handing it over to Zach and perhaps Mike Bishop. And I took the time to reach out to some group of citizens in town and asked if they'd be willing to serve on a steering committee. And I think I've came up, and Commissioner Nalitz also, with a great group of people, and I think would do a great job. If you don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to read their names.
Okay.
Vaughn Branch, which he asked Zach probably 3 months ago. I think he was the first and only one that approached Town Hall. He's in Bayshore, lived here 25 years, political science degree. Charlie Evans, former planning board member, commissioner. Dave Fowler, I think he served probably 3 terms as a mayor, two or three terms commissioner. Who knows? He's been around forever. Bubba McLean is a businessman, realtor. Chris Calt, up and coming businessman, resident Bayshore. and Courtney Barnhill. I think that's 6 people that has graciously volunteered their time to serve on this steering committee. That's the way I'm in favor of approaching this, Mayor, and certainly would want to listen to any other comments. Willing to be open-minded. Thank you.
Okay. Well, would you like to go ahead and just make a motion, see where it goes, and then we get into a discussion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to turn the, I guess that's not the proper term, but to form a steering committee, which includes the town manager and the zoning ordinance person with the 6 names that I just mentioned. And Zach, did you write those names down by chance?
I wrote them down.
Do I need to include the names in the motion or just?
No, I got the names. I'll mention them when we do it.
Okay, that'd be the motion that I'd like to make.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to create a UDO steering committee with Zach, Mike Bishop, Devon Branch, Charlie Evans, Dave Fowler, Bubba McLean, Chris Clark, I hope I got the name right.
Chris Clark.
Chris Clark, okay. Yeah. And Courtney Barnhill. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second for Commissioner Nalitz. All right, now let's open it up for some conversation. Gentlemen, any comments?
Mayor, I think, this is Mike King. I think we need to have some people on our planning board sit on that committee. They are the people that use the ordinance more than any other people in the town. And if we're going to change it, having their input would be vital. In fact, I've reached out to the planning board and they're willing to take it on as a project, but I'm not saying that it needs to be one or the other, but I think there ought to be involvement of the planning board in there since every decision they make involves using the ordinance and to leave them out of the process, I think would be remiss.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any other comments?
All right.
Don, did you have something?
No, I don't have any comment.
Okay, so no other comments? All right. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'll withhold my comments. Thank you.
All right, so we'll just do another roll call vote. I'll start with Commissioner Waters.
Can I say something first?
Yes, go ahead.
I think that's what Mike King brought up about the planning board is not really a bad idea. I would suggest with the steering committee, maybe like Susan Hall, who is the chairman of the planning board, could be put on that list as well. That way they'll know what's going on within the steering committee and she'll get more knowledge from the UDO ordinance that's going to be implemented. So that's one thing. I think we should do an addition to add like Susan Hall, the chairman of the planning board, to that steering committee. I would like your thoughts about that too as well.
Yeah, I would add more than one. Certainly the chair would be a good choice, but adding others to them, you don't want to get it too big. They are public meetings, and we will have summit down here on several occasions. But to leave, I can't support this without having some involvement of our planning board in there that is willing to work this process.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I tend to disagree. What I said earlier was the planning board has enough on their plate, in my opinion, and this committee is comprised of stakeholders in our town, and it should be essentially, in my mind, citizens only on this steering committee. They are the ultimate stakeholder. The job of the planning board is to uphold and apply the ordinances to their decisions that they present to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
One other comment, Mayor. My goodness, the planning board members are citizens of this town. They use the ordinances more than anybody else and are fully aware of the problems with the existing ordinance. So I think they would have a lot more input into the process than people that are totally unfamiliar with the ordinances that have never even looked at them. I think it would be just very unfortunate to not have members of our planning board sitting in on this committee.
Mayor, I'd like to comment on Commissioner King's comment. He has no way of knowing the knowledge that any of the people I recommended have in regards to the ordinance. I would think that Charlie Evans, Dave Fowler, and Bubba McLean especially know those ordinances inside and out. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, any other comments? If not, we'll vote on the motion that is still on the table. And I'll start with Commissioner Waters.
I'm gonna say no to this motion, but only to the reason that I would like to see Susan Hall be added to the list of these people. That way we have, the planning board has some insight of what's going on through UBO. And I think it'd be very important to have at least one of the planning board members onto it. So no to this one, but I'd like to do an additional motion after this one is completed.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Miller?
No.
Commissioner Nailets?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
No.
And Commissioner Martin?
No. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. The motion failed.
Well,
Three
it
to
does.
two.
It does matter that my vote goes on record, Mayor. Thank you.
And I understand. I didn't mean to make light of that, Steve. So Commissioner Waters?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, what Steve Martin motion was, but do the additional of the chairman of the planning board or any of the planning board members, preferably Susan Hall, to be added to that list of names.
Okay.
To this motion.
All right. So we have a motion to add Susan Hall to the list that we have previously talked about on the earlier motion that failed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Miller. Any additional comments on this motion?
Yes, that's not the motion that Commissioner Waters made. He may mention of Susan Hall and any other planning board members, Mayor.
Want to be more specific?
Be more specific. Just add. Sorry about that, Steve. Add Susan Hall, the chairman of the planning board, added to that list of names on that motion.
All right. So that mirrors what I actually said then, right?
Right.
Okay. So the motion is that we will have the steering committee, which will comprise itself of representing staff, Zach, Mike Bishop, citizens, Devon Branch, Charlie Evans, Dave Fowler, Bubba McLean, Chris Calk, and Courtney Barnhill, along with Susan Hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any other?
Yeah,
comments?
I would, Mr. Mayor, I would ask that in addition to Susan Hall, which I agree with, if we could add one other person at the chair's choice or a volunteer from the board, and we will get many volunteers from this board to sit on this. If we could have at least two from the planning board on there to better represent the interests of that board and getting these ordinances redone. I wondered if that Commissioner Waters would amend his motion to include two from the planning board.
Mayor, there's a motion on the table we need to vote on first, I would think. We haven't finished discussion on the motions on the table.
Right, if it doesn't pass, then we can amend like we did with yours.
And I have discussion on the motion that's currently on the table whenever you get around to me.
Okay, Mike, did you have any other comments?
No, I just think having better representation of the planning board would, be better for the end product. That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Martin, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think in this case, it would be an overload on the committee. I mean, the old saying is if you want to kill something, just to give it to committee anyway. But anyway, is anybody bothered to ask Susan Hall if she's willing to do this? I mean, I'd hate to volunteer her and she not be willing to do that.
Well, Susan's on. Susan, would you like to cut your microphone on and say yay or nay? Thank you for being here, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. I would like to serve on that committee. I think there's the people that you folks have talked about, a lot of corporate knowledge there, and I think I could benefit from that, on the planning board. So absolutely, I'd like to do it.
All right. Thank you, Susan. On the planning board. Any other comments, Commissioner Martin?
No.
One other comment, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Martin keeps referring to they have too much on their plate. They only met 7 times last year, and this, I believe, correct, Zach? We're trying to get this done by July 1st or 31st. When does this have to be complete?
Well, I was going to ask the board for some clarification on, is this the UDO committee or is this the land use plan steering committee, or is this both? That just for clarification, the UDO update has to be completed by July 1st, and the land use plan project, the update, has to be done by this December. So 2 different deadlines there. I wasn't sure if the board was envisioning one committee to handle both projects, or what the preference of the board is. So we know.
It was introduced as the UDO.
Okay.
The motion was for the UDO. I think we've got time on the land use project, and we could carry over this group with that on that decision when, but we got time on that. The UDO is very important and very time sensitive.
Mayor, I've got one more comment in regards to the comment that Commissioner King made. As far as some of these committee members that's volunteered their time not being well versed or how he put it on our ordinances. But he seems to think all the planning board members are. I just got a problem with his comment. Just wanted to make that part of the record. He has no idea what knowledge any of these people have. I think it was I think it was inappropriate for him to question anybody's knowledge. Thank you.
All right. Okay, any other comments? If not, we'll just go ahead and do a roll call vote. I'll start with Commissioner Waters.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, you made the motion.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
My key to the no.
Okay, all right, so we're back at it. Okay, so yes, Commissioner Waters. Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz.
Yes.
Commissioner King.
Yes.
And Commissioner Martin.
Just for verification, Mayor, so in my mind, I've got it right. We're adding Susan Hall to the list of the steering committee. Is that correct? And Susan Hall only?
That's correct. That's what this.
Okay. Well, I'm a yes then. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That motion carries. And like I say, we'll get on the UDO and possibly just there again, we don't have to decide on that tonight. We can use this if all goes well with this committee and we feel it was productive, we can simply use it as the same committee for the land use project. All right, next up is the appointment of the Board of Adjustment members. I think all you gentlemen had the applications for those who were still interested. On how many slots are we needing to fill, Zach?
I believe it's one full-time member and 2 alternates.
So one full-time and 2 alternates. And what are the terms for the alternates and the full-time? Are they 2 or 3 year? Do we know?
I think they're 3-year terms. I think that's the minimum, I believe.
We have to introduce some stagger into these people. I think we reappointed the other 4 people for 3, so that means we're turning over the whole board. I think these probably need to be 2-year terms so that we introduce some stagger into that board.
Okay. All right. Just to get started, would anybody like to offer up a couple of names? And
one other question. We have a regular member and 2 alternates, and based on the votes, how are we going to determine which one is the regular and which are the alternates?
well, you could do that in the motion, who you would like to see as the full and the 2 alternates.
Mayor, can we go with the full-time first, just to eliminate any confusion?
I think that's a great idea.
Well, I would like to nominate, appoint Heather Granger for the full-time position on the Board of Adjustment.
All right, Heather Granger. Do I have a second for Heather Granger as the full-time?
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote on that. Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
And Commissioner Waters? And yes, from Commissioner Waters. All right, so we need 2 alternates. Do I have a motion to present 2 alternates?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to present Chuck Jinks and Pat McInerney. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly. Two people that had applied for the planning board. Yeah.
And Pat McInerney. All
Yeah,
right,
Chuck-
so Chuck Jinks and Pat McInerney. Do I have a second?
We're gonna end up.
King, second.
Gonna cause a problem. We need to do this with each alternate like we did a full-time. We need to pick one full-time.
Well, he made a motion for 2.
Okay.
So we got a motion. I'm sorry, who seconded that?
King.
King?
All right.
Okay. Can we have a discussion? Mr. Waters was making a comment. Would you like to reiterate your comment, sir?
I believe we should go what we did with the full-time, just take one person at a time. One person for the full-time, one person for the alternate, and one person for the second alternate. So everybody would have an opportunity on this applicant list. That's just my suggestion.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, if you wanted to go that, we could withdraw one of the names. And as I understand it, Commissioner Waters, you want to put one name on the board at a time. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Okay.
But that's not the motion. The motion is for Chuck Jinks and Pat McInerney.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments?
Just real briefly, I don't know if Brett's with us. Just wanted to verify the length of the term. I was pulling up 160D, and I think it has to be a 3-year term. I just wanted to verify that with Brett.
That's correct. They have to be 3-year terms. In appointing the original members, the governing board could have appointed for less than 3-year terms, but of course this would not be original, so the statute requires 3-year terms.
Okay. So in other words, they have to be 3 years.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that information. Any other comments, gentlemen? All right.
Yeah.
We'll put that to
Yeah,
Commissioner
Mr.
Martin?
Mayor, I would recommend that we go forward beyond this time and set some stagger in there like we have in the planning board down the road, so we won't be running up against 7 people all finishing their terms at the end of 3 years. We could do that in a later meeting.
Yeah, we'll do that in a later meeting. I agree. So we can set some stagger. Any other comments? All right, Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, we're voting on the 2 that I made a motion on.
So I should have said we're voting now. Yes, Commissioner Martin, we're voting on to have Chuck Jinks and Pat McInerney as the 2 alternates.
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Nalitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
And Commissioner Waters?
I'm just gonna say no, due to, I just like to see it done a different way.
Okay. All right, motion carries 4-1. And I'm sure staff will let Heather, Chuck, and Pat know they are now on the town Board of Adjustments. Congratulations if they happen to be online. Well, I always appreciate anybody that's willing to serve on the board and serve the town. That's just awesome. All right, so next up, we're going to do commission reports because then we're going to go into a closed session. And so we'll go around and whoever has stuff to say before we go into the closed session. I'll start with Commissioner Waters.
No comment.
No comment from Mr. Waters.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. All right. Commissioner Miller.
Nothing to report tonight.
All right. Commissioner Nalitz.
Nothing to report.
All right. Commissioner King.
Yeah, a couple items. Very briefly, Zach showed the kayak launch. I went up there and looked at it, and it was really nice. I think what we're going to have to do at a future time is figure out how these people are going to tote their kayaks, and it may involve using kayak dollies. You can get them pretty cheap, and figure out a way that they can do it because the people, they're not going to drag it on that concrete. And so anyway, that's something for a future meeting. And second, I would like to make a comment on the audit that we have. The great financial shape that we ended up at the end of this year, if you look at those same numbers in about this time in 2018, early 19, we were in deep stuff. And I want to thank our town manager for all the grant money and reimbursement money from FEMA that he got that made this audit possible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner King. Commissioner Martin.
Yes, a few things here, Mayor. First of all, I thank all the staff at Town Hall for holding the fort down through all this COVID mess, and especially the chief and his department. I do have one comment. It seems like every report I read every week, Sound Medical has an unlocked door. I mean, multiple times. I mean, that is the lock broken or what's going on with that? But I do pay attention to the chief's reports, but I find that interesting. I want to let the board know and everyone that cares, I have had my first vaccine. I get my second vaccine dosage this week. I'm happy to report. It's been a long year. Maybe it's war on our patience. Secondly, I would be remorse if I didn't make mention of the fact that after the county had their vote, I reached out to Commissioner Comer, and he and I have been in discussion for days and days and days and hours and hours and hours. I appreciate him being open-minded enough to speak to me on this issue, and I'm happy that it is actually going before the board May the 15th, to my understanding, for discussion by all 7 commissioners. my hopes are that it goes before a vote, and the 3 that voted for changing will keep that vote, and that Commissioner Comer will join them so we can get the much needed assistance that we need in this end of the county. It's not just us. Pelletier is facing a huge growth. They need all the help they can get. Our budget is always a challenge. It would be a relief for us to get that. So I hope Commissioner Comer comes through for us. I do appreciate him being open-minded and spending all the time that he did with me on the telephone, which I can assure you was substantial. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Steve. I got just a couple of things to add this evening. One, we had the ILA budget meeting last week, and I'm proud to say that they're not going to be raising taxes there for your fire and your protection. So, but as Commissioner Martin just alluded to, Pelletier is going to be exploding. This area is going to be wide open. We're going to be, if nothing else, it's just unreal the amount of the RV parks that are getting ready to pop up out there, and single homes and everything else. So with that, you know, naturally there's going to be added expense coming with it, and that makes this whole sales tax issue a lot more important to us. So we don't have to raise taxes, and that's the whole thing about me, is the way these triggers are on how it currently is. If let's say Emerald Isle raises their taxes this year, that's going to be less money for us, how this formula works out. So like I said, I don't want to drop this discussion, and I plan on being there at the county meeting there again to represent our town and this end of the county as much as I possibly can. With that, now we are going to, I'll get a motion to leave this session and go into a closed session.
And Mr. Mayor, when we enter the closed session, the motion has to indicate what the closed session is for. So it can be for property acquisition, attorney-client privilege, personnel matters, or other privilege matters. We just have to indicate what the actual closed session is for.
Well, I'm going to have some questions for you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Mayor, since I added to the agenda, I'll go ahead and make the motion to go into closed session for discussion on property acquisition.
All righty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Commissioner Waters. We'll go ahead and take a vote unless there is some discussion on it. All right, so Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner King? Mike, still there?
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Nalitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
And Commissioner Waters?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to go into closed session. Zach, I guess give everybody a good 10 minutes to readjust. Do you want to give the proper procedures and for people who may want to be here when we come back?
Yeah, so we'll return to the same room after the closed session is over. And for the board and for the attorney and for Heather, I'm emailing everybody the link to the closed session now. So we will reconvene back in the same room, use the same link that was used to access the meeting earlier this evening after the board exits closed session.
All right, thanks, Zach.
Are they going to know what time to come back, or can they just log in and when you start the meeting back, they'll automatically pop in?
They should be able to wait in the room, and it'll say the host has not yet arrived. And as soon as we come back in, then the meeting should start back up.
Perfect.
How many minutes?
Let's say we'll convene in the closed session in 5 minutes if that works for everybody. 5 minutes.
10-4.
Okay. All right. See everybody there.